Hi guys, I'm David with Media Unlocked, and today we're going to be talking about the ProGrey filter system. Bill has actually been using it quite a bit lately for some of very specific shoots, and I'm actually almost wasn't able to get him back from him. I was like, Bill, I need to get these back so I can go over a little bit of research for this review.
Give what back?
Yeah, exactly.
What back? Give what back?
He did not want to give them back to me. He's had so much fun with them, and this system. It's an amazing system.
It is. It is truly an amazing system.
So in today's video, we're going to break this up over a couple different videos. We're just going to really talk about the filters today and the other companies out there and why we think ProGrey is really probably the best filter system on the market.
It's the best one I've ever used.
Yeah. And we've tried out the Nissies, we've tried out the Lees, Koken. You've used the Koken.
I use Koken systems, right?
And so now we've tried out the ProGrey systems. And we want to do one video taking you guys out into the field and showing you how that works. And then we might do a third video actually physically showing you how to use the system to your best advantage, in a manner of speaking. So I'm going to let Bill dive into talking a little bit about the system and his thoughts so far.
I have always found that neutral density filters are something that most photographers have a problem with, David, because they don't really know how to use them. Sometimes they seem like a very complex piece of equipment. You got all these pieces. And when do you use one piece over another? What do you do with it? When do you make a selection, and really, why would you want to use it? Because the system is somewhat complex, and it does take a body of knowledge in order to use it. You have to understand light, and you have to be able to do some quick math on the fly in order to get your exposures correct when you do it. So I think a lot of people tend to shy away from ND filters, just for the simple reason that it's a little more complex than they want to deal with. But the reality is, if it makes the pictures better, it's worth it.
Or they don't know the complexities of it,
exactly,
and therefore they're not getting the results they wanted, and they don't understand why. And really, the basic of what an ND filter does is your camera, you're shooting out in a very bright situation, and your camera, most lenses max out at a f/22 to 32. So you use you would use an ND filter, and it stands for neutral density filter. You would use it to actually get more stops of light, so that if you needed to shoot very bright, you're shooting a waterfall, and you wanted that blur effect, which means you need that 4, 5, 10 seconds of your shutter being opened. Well, guess what? It's going to be completely blown out unless you have a neutral density filter to put on the front of your camera and give you the few extra stops of light that you're going to need. And then you have graduated filters, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, and they are a neutral density filter that is mainly a regular piece of glass that's clear, and then the neutral density part above it, and they graduate. So the neutral density graduates into the clearer part, therefore allowing you to fix like a sky. You know, the sky's blown out, but the bottom half of your frame for the shot is not blown out, and it allows you to get that even exposure, which some people do HDR or focus stacking, or I guess just picture stacking in general. But I think you can get a cleaner, better looking shot with a filter system.
I think you're right. I think you can. I mean, photographers know what to do when there's not enough light. You add a studio strobe, you add a speed light, you stop down, or stop up, sorry. But when there's too much light, what do? All we can do is turn our ISO down or open our aperture all the way to f/22 or f/32. But what if I want to take a portrait? People in general don't look good at f/22. No. They look better at f3, f4. For their aperture, because you soften the skin just a little bit. And f/22 has vignetting issues with a lot of lenses.
Yeah, and you get that you get too much in focus. You don't blow out the background. Then you have to go into post and add in that blur, like a Gaussian blur, and kind of paint that in, and it just doesn't look as natural.
And if you want to get silky water for a waterfall or a seascape or a fountain, you can't do that at f/22. You can't do it at 1/1000th of a second.
Actually, I'm going to pop up a picture I took last year. Using I actually don't even remember the company's name, but I use a neutral density filter to get this shot. This was, I think, a 30-second or 25-second exposure because I had people moving around. I didn't want people into the frame. So this picture that you guys are probably seeing right now is of a fountain in Charleston, South Carolina. And there are probably about 5 or 10 people standing around the fountain, but you can't see them because I left my shutter speed open for so long that their movement wasn't being captured by the camera. I needed a neutral density filter to get this picture.
Crowd motion was one of the first ones that I used this system for, to capture an image of one model stock still with the crowd swirling around her.
So let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit about ProGrey. We kind of give you guys a little baseline here, and we're going to go into another video that's really going to break down neutral density filters a little bit more. But the idea was to talk about ProGrey, which, I mean, to us,
it's the bomb.
They're amazing. They make the best filter system on the market that we have tried. I know I spent probably month, 2 weeks to a month, because I wanted to buy a good filter system. I wanted something that was good. This is one of those things that you don't skimp on when it comes to photography. You get a good, same thing with a lens. You don't get a cheap lens. You save up a little bit more. You get a higher quality, better lens because it's going to give you better results.
Glass is an investment, just like this.
And this is the same way. So I did a bunch of research, and I never even heard of ProGrey before. And I'm telling you, all the high-end professional photographers, this is what they're using. This is the top of the market.
And there's a reason.
And there really is, because of the kind of shots you can get with it.
Let's break the system down into its parts.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, this is the system that ProGrey has right here. It consists of a holder, which fits onto your camera lens. You can get stop rings in virtually any size out there that screw into this, that adapt to any size lens out there. So you can use this on all of your lenses. You get one holder with different adapter rings to fit everything.
Right.
The adapter rings on their website are only about $10. So you can get this for every single lens you've got. So all of your glass is covered. So you've got the holder. The side pieces, this is a little bit unique. I'd never seen this on any other system. It comes to hold one filter. We have 2 installed on the holder right now, or it comes with to hold 3, so that you can stack the filters on top of each other. That way you can get differential results. You can block more light. They're all designed to be used for the number of filters. Now, I understand it's a little bit of an issue to swap them out. That takes a little more time and a little more planning, but it prevents lens flare when you do it.
Yeah.
Because one of the problems with square filters always has been light sneaks in around the side. And then you get those filter flares that you don't even notice until you're in post and you go, oh man.
Well, and this isn't really, when you're using a filter system like this is not probably a run and gun thing.
No, it's not.
For me, I'm a landscape photographer. So I absolutely love filter systems like this. And I may spend 20 minutes setting up my filter system and getting the setup. So this is not something where I'm going to throw this on a tripod and I'm going to take a picture. I take my time because that's how I get amazing pictures, is by taking my time, being patient, and making sure I have my frame right, I have my equipment set up right before I actually snap the shot.
Exactly. Now these are 100 millimeter interchangeable filters. That is the same thing that Lee uses, that Copeland uses, that everybody else. You can get them bigger. You have a super wide angle lens, for example. You can get these, I believe, up to 150 millimeters. But 100 millimeters is kind of standard. It fits all of the lenses that you're likely to use in your normal day-to-day photography.
And I believe they do have a 14 millimeter lens setup for like a Rokinon or the Nikon 14 millimeter, where it's bowed a little bit. So they actually have a system for that as well if you're looking for wide angle shots and being filtered.
The filters are just a piece of resin. And by the way, I always recommend resin filters instead of glass. Resin is a little bit tougher. It's going to be a little bit more resistant to scratching. Right. And a scratched filter, pure and simple, is going to give you lens flare. But
and just for people that don't know, what is lens flare?
Lens flare is where light hits your lens and skips across it instead of penetrating into it for the optics. So when it skips across it, what it leaves is a light trail.
Yeah.
Just very similar to if you were shooting at night with a star trail, for example, at a different exposure. And you might want to have that in there. You might put it in there, but when it sneaks in, that's never a good thing because you never notice it until post, and then it's always your favorite picture that has lens flare. Well, I'm not going to tell you why I know that. Now, the filter system itself has 2 kinds. It has a graduated filter, which is what this one is. You notice there's the neutral density filter at the top and the clear section down at the bottom. There's also a standard, this is the big gun right here.
Yep, this is
a 10-stop neutral density filter. And look at that. You can go right behind it, my hand disappears.
Yeah.
You can't even focus through this. You have to focus your camera, insert this, and then take your shot.
Yes, and there are some camera systems, some of the Sony systems have such high ISO, you can bump your ISO up really high. And that's what you would do, is you bump your ISO up as high as you can possibly go and hope that your camera can focus through that. But if not, again, that's where it's not run and gun. You pre-focus your shot, Or you focus stack and you just move your little focus ring, take a shot, move your focus ring, take a shot, move your focus ring.
I've done that before. It's annoying if you're not planning
Yeah.
to do it that way. But the one advantage to using this, for example, is you can get that ISO down.
Yeah.
So that you can shoot it at 100 ISO instead of 10,000 ISO.
Yeah. And maybe do that. With that, I think you can get probably a 1 to 2 minute exposure.
Oh, easily. Easily.
So again, if you're shooting something with a large crowd, like a cathedral over in Europe or something like that, this is what you would use. You'd use 1 or 2 of these. You'd take a 5-minute exposure. There would be no people because the people are
It'd be
moving
an empty
more.
room.
Yeah.
It would look like an empty
but your
room.
subject, the cathedral would look amazing.
In fact, maybe that's a shot I'll try with rush hour traffic.
Yeah, you could literally make the traffic disappear.
I'm going to have to try that. So we've got the standard neutral density filter. Now this is a 10-stop filter. They also make a variety of others that are less, 1, 3, 7, that you can get to reduce that factor a little bit. In addition to the graduated filters, we have hard filters and soft filters. This is the shape of the line that separates the two. A hard filter is where you've got the graduated filter and then a very hard defining line and then a clear.
Right. So if you notice, again, when we look at this filter system, if you notice
That's
right here,
the soft one.
It's graduated, and then we're very clear at the bottom.
Okay, so these are the 2 graduated filters that came with the kit. There's a 0.3 and a 0.6. Notice the difference in the color.
Yeah.
0.6 is going to stop a lot more light, obviously, than 0.3. By the way, 0.3 is the equivalent of roughly 1 stop of light.
Okay.
0.6 is 2 stops. If you want to go for the big gun, 1.2 is the equivalent of 3 stops of light. Compare that to the 10 stop,
It's like
which
you can't
is
see through
completely black. Now notice the lens line between the 2 sections, hard and soft. You would use a hard filter if you're shooting a seascape, where you have a long, flat horizon line. You would use the soft one if you're shooting a mountain or a sunset, where you've got a line like that.
Things blend a little bit more.
Exactly, like feathering in a Photoshop.
Exactly.
Like a feathering brush. On top of that, one of the things I really liked about ProGrey is the thought they've put behind it in the system itself. Each filter has its own wrapper and has its own case. That's going to keep you as much as possible from putting a scratch on there that's going to give you some lens flare.
On top of that, they put a little piece of paper up here on the top of the filter so you know which filter goes into which case. But what happens if you accidentally forget what filter goes to what case, Bill?
You can look at the filter itself where they have etched the name of the filter right in the very top.
So you know which filter is which and you don't get confused. Because I could see filters getting mixed up.
Oh, yes.
As clumsy as I am, very easy to happen.
And one of the old annoyances in my world was when they just printed it on there, because eventually that printing always wore off.
Yeah. So
And
this
then you
is
couldn't tell.
This is etched, so it's not going to wear off.
Exactly. The other parts of the system, of course, all of these pieces come together. You have a ring to put a polarizing filter in, which you can then stack behind these filters, because polarizing and neutral density are not the same thing.
No.
Even though a lot of very cheap neutral density filters that are variable rings, not all of them by any means, but most of them are just 2 polarizing filters put together.
Exactly.
So,
And polarizing really helps with water glare pretty
Glare
much.
of any
It
kind.
kills glare. So it's a little bit different than how a neutral density filter works.
exactly. You have a little Allen wrench that comes with the kit so that you can swap out the number of filter
Yeah.
holders. But it's always a good sign when they give you the spare screws.
'Cause-
Because somewhere you're going to drop it in the grass, and these screws, you're not going
And
to
it's
find
gonna
them at
be-
the local hardware
It's
store.
going to be on a shoot that you hiked 5 miles to get there, got all excited about, dropped and lost the screw, and now you have now you can't put your filter.
And by the time you get back, the sun's in a different place, and you can't shoot it. Exactly. So this is the entire system right here.
Yeah.
The only thing that surprised me, David, is that they don't have like one bag for all of it.
That was probably our only biggest drawback, is that they don't seem to have a filter bag. And I think we both looked on the website. We didn't see anything.
I did not see one when I looked on the website. It's
Yeah.
possible that it's there, but I didn't see one.
So it would be nice if there was some kind of carrying bag to fit all this in. There is a company called Mind Shift Gear. They make filter bags that work really well. Did you end up getting a chance to go check them out today?
No, I didn't. I just
Okay.
grabbed a drawstring bag that I had sitting around the house to keep them in.
Other than that, though, we really don't have any complaints with ProGrey.
It's so well thought out.
yeah.
It is absolutely amazing to me.
And I'm really surprised that more people haven't heard about them.
I never had.
Yeah, when I think filters, before I ran into ProGrey and did all this research, it was really Lee and Nissi.
And Koken was the filter system that I was most familiar with.
I have never used Koken, but I've used Lee a few times. I've used Nissi a few times. I think Nissi uses glass, so therefore it gets scratched easier, and you have that lens flare issue much easier. Okay, Bill, well, why don't you show them how they kind of slide in, because they slide in really nice and comfortably, in my opinion.
So sweet.
It really is nice.
Instead of screwing it in, of course, which is what you get with the round filters, these just slide right in like that, and then look, just like that. That's all it is.
Yeah, and so
you can adjust it so that you can set that graduated line exactly where you're looking for. You can raise it, lower it to get it just exactly where you want it for your frame.
And you can set up a second filter. So we've got the 2 filter holder in right now. And if we wanted to put another filter in there, that would be an option. We
could swap it out for the 3 in a couple of seconds and then just move on.
Move on, exactly. So we're really happy with this system. Again, as I get excited about certain things, and this is one of those things that was one of the few times that I've done a review that I'm really, really, really excited about the product. Now, ProGrey is not the cheapest filter system on the market by any means.
But value is a subjective thing. I mean, cost is important. Of course it is. It's important to all of us. But is it an investment or is it a cost?
Right.
Is this something that you're going to use and consume and then throw away? Or is it something you're going to be able to use for years? And I am less concerned about the price of a product, David, than I am the value. It's the bang for the buck. That's the important
And after the research, this is who we went with. And when we got them, we're not sending them back. We are very satisfied.
Sending what back?
Exactly. We're very satisfied with the system. So it was well worth our money to pick this system up. And as you guys know, I do a lot of landscape. Bill's kind of getting into some more landscape. And I'm excited to see how the portraiture stuff.
But I use a lot of for people. And I really like the idea of being able to shoot and extend my photography outside of golden hour, for example.
So thanks for stopping in, guys. If you guys have made it this far, go on and hit that subscribe button as well. There will be a link to the website, so you can go check out ProGrey's, all their stuff. And of course, whatever the newest video is, that's going to be a linkable click there too, a clickable link, something like that. You can click something up there. Go see the newest video.
And make sure you come back for part 2.
Part 2 is going to be great.